It's well known, Shekol Mashu Masupar Batera, everything which is told us, even in the form of a story, in the Torah, what is well known, the word Torah is Miloshen Heruah, as brought down in the Zohar HaKodesh, in Sefer Bamidbar and Parashat Bahaloischo, that the word Torah is based on the word Heruah. Teiman b'toichoi Heruah nitzchias l'chol Yehudi u'l'chol zman. Any story or anything told us in the Torah hides within itself a instruction and a revealing of what should be done, which is everlasting, and therefore it means that it refers to every Jew, u'l'chol zman. It's something absolute, which even though it talks in a general way, it actually refers to each and every individual, wherever he is, at whatever time it may be. That, as we said, includes general instructions, which appear from the simple pirush of the Pesukim. And then he said, "V'gam hoiruas protias miyuchodes," and also specific and individual hoiruas, behetem lamatzav hamiyuchad sheboi nimtza hayehudi. It's not limited by, you might say, well, that applies only to certain conditions, but if somebody's in a completely different situation, then that doesn't apply to him. So the Rebbe said, no, the heroes of the Torah are such that they talk to every single Jew, and no matter what situation he may be, in a special way. He might be in a special situation in his life and in what he's doing at that moment. Nonetheless, the Torah has what to say to him in a specific way at all times and all places. But that's a very remarkable idea when you think about it. In other words, the word Hoirah, which is the basis of the word Torah, they're not just a general indication to Yidden how they should go, but it's a specific individual message to you as an individual, wherever you'll be and whatever you'll be doing. Kach gam b'parshaseinu. The same as with this parsha that we're beginning, which Pesachas b'milim, which opens with the phrase and the sentence vayigash Elov Yehuda, what tells us the story of how Yehuda approached Yosef, stepped up close to Yosef, and began to speak to him in a very powerful way, as Rashi tells us, saying and demanding and persuading Yosef what he wanted of him. So Yeshna Hoirua Nitchias, there's an everlasting instruction. Shememena ניתן lahovin כיצד עלינו לשנא כועס. That even though that was way back in the time of Yosef Atzadik and the Shvatim led at that time by Yehuda, nonetheless the instruction hidden there is everlasting, and therefore we, at whatever time we may find ourselves in, whatever situation, we can learn from that, and especially Bomdeino Beregoyim Achreinim Lifnei Hagiula Hashlema, especially that our generation is standing in a very remarkable situation where the Rebbe says he's already explained on many occasions, and particularly in the latter times, that we're mamish in the last moments of the Golas, and we're waiting and approaching the Gula Hashlema. So we need to know what is that everlasting message that Yehuda's approach to Yosef, and what he said to him. What does that mean to us, that we are standing in such a very special situation in the history of the whole universe, that we're awaiting the immediate Gula Shlema? So therefore, says the Rebbe, b'mabat rishon, with first glance, when you first look at it, ניתן לראות את הקשר של פרשתנו לגאולה בהפטרה. So you might say, well, in the actual teichen of the parsha, if you just look at it simply, maybe you don't see what sort of references are mamish to Erev HaGeula, but he said if you look in the Haftarah, it's well known, the Haftarah talks about the union of Yehuda and Yosef, and that ultimately Yehuda will be the king, and all the Yidden will be reunited in the Gula Shlema, and there'll be one king, and that will be David HaMelech, David Nasi, David Melech Echad L'Kulam. There'll be one king, not like in the time of the Basi HaMikdash, that unfortunately the Malchus was split into two madrigas. There'll be Melech Echad L'Kulam, and who will that be? David HaMelech, David Nasi Aleihem Li'olam. So L'chora, in the Haftarah, which is well known, our sages were metaking the Haftarah lefi inen haparsha kiyadua. So since we see in the Haftarah such a very powerful and open reference to what's going to be the interrelation between Yehuda and Yosef when Mashiach will come, but again to the whole Klal Yisrael, that there'll be a reunion of all the tribes together under the leadership of one king. So that was the Rebbe, Sham Masupa Keitzad Hashem Ma'areh Lanovi Yecheskel. He's the one that said the actual Nevuah of the Haftarah. Shebegeula Hasida Yishabru Malchus Yehuda Malchus Yosef. That's one of them. They were the two Malchias. The second Malchus was called Malchus Yisrael, but it was based on people also from Yosef's tribe. Malchus Yosef, Shahoyu Bezman, Beisa, Amida. There were two separate kingships. They're all going to be reunited to one kingdom. Or Malchum Yeh David HaMelech Meshevet Yehuda. And even though Shevet Yehuda is only one of all the tribes that will be united, he will be the king and he will be the leader. And that's what the Haftarah announces, that there's Yosef and Yehuda are going to unite together. And the king, in effect, Lapoya, is going to be from Shevet Yehuda, Dainam is Shevet, Shevet Yehuda, David HaMelech. In this particular vision, Mitzvah Hashem Yecheskel, Lakacha Shnei Eitzim, to take two, like what you might call branches or sticks, V'liktov al Echad Yehuda Ve'al Hasheni Yosef. Each of these two pieces of wood or branches representing one Yehuda and one Yosef, and to join them together, lechabram yachad, kedei laheir shekach yeh begula. Everything will be reunited and not two separate kingships, and the leader of everybody will be David HaMelech u'mishpachtoi. So the Rebbe says, that's a clear connection with the Indian of the Geula. Aval, the Rebbe said that's not so simple to find the answer to our question. Why? He said, "B'haftarah nitan lirois rakes hakesher legeula." That's what's going to be the situation after the Geula has already occurred. After the Geula has occurred, so then there'll be a reunion of everything. Everything will come together, and there'll be one Nasi Vamela with his daughter. However, says the Rebbe, we're looking for something that has to do with Erev Geula. So he says, yeah, we're talking about the last moments prior to the Geula, and the Haftarah is like a summing up of the finality after the Geula. And we just said that every prat in the Torah is a direct indication to the klal and to every individual in the time that he is, and we're in the time of Lifnei Agura. So we've got to find what is the special instruction to us from Yehuda's approach to Yosef, in a way that it will be real to us, when Mashiach hasn't actually come yet. So he said, "B'neisov lakach, yesh lahoven." In addition to all that, yesh lahoven is a kesher shebein ha'parsha lahaftarah. That in addition to that, meaning in the same general spirit of the question, that we need to know what is the connection between the parsha and the haftarah, because the parsha doesn't talk about the geula, yet the whole haftarah is all to do with the geula and with how Yosef and Yehuda will be united. And the parsha seems to indicate that Yosef is the ruler at that time, and Yehuda needs him to give him his needs and to look after Binyamin, etc. etc. So therefore, we need to understand what is the connection between the parsha and the haftarah. That's an additional question. But parsha mesupa al ma'alosai hagdel shel Yosef. Parsha tells us all about the ruling powers of Yosef, and all the good things that happen later in the parsha are all due to Yosef's activity as the leader of Mitzrayim. He gives all sorts of good possibilities to all the tribes, and he helps them, and he gives them parnasa, and he looks after them, gives them the best place to live in Egypt. It's all him. It's all from Yosef. So therefore, the Rebbe said, Shahoyo Mishnah Lamelech, he was the assistant to the king. Ubalabayis al Mitzrayim, and like Parashat said to him, you are going to be the boss. Everybody will not be able to take any action without your consent. And so therefore, it seems the parsha seems to be teaching us the godless of Yosef. He said, "Yehuda hoya zokuk lehischanan elo," and Yehuda was required to, as it were, plead with Yosef, b'ktei sheyishachar Binyamin. But that was the main aim of Yehuda's whole approach, that he should free Binyamin from what he threatened to take him as a slave. So therefore, it would appear that Yehuda is bottled to Yosef, and even has to plead with him and ask him to give permission to free Binyamin. But from that we see the greatness of Yosef and the bittul of Yehuda to Yosef. He said, "V'hu yediba el Yosef ke'eved lifnei melech." Except for certain things that Rashi brings down, that he hinted to him that he's likely to get tough if that will be necessary, and so on. But Pashtus, a key shooter, he approaches Yosef as the king, and he shows that he wants to win favor in his eyes in the form of like an Eved does. He said, "Ve'ilu v'haftarah mesupa davke al mailas Yehuda." The Haftarah talks about how Yehuda is going to be the king, and he will be the everlasting king of the united Jewish people. Shadovi, Abba Mizaroi, when he comes from Zera Yehuda, Hu yeh melech Gam al Shevet Yosef. He'll be the melech, including over all the tribes, including Yosef. So that seems to be like two opposite themes. So what is the connection in general between the Pasha and the Haftarah, which talks about, as we said, the greatness of Moshiach, who is Shevet Yehuda in the personage of David HaMelech. B'neisav lakach tzorich lahovin as a kesher shebein tchilas ha'parsha l'seifo. The Rebbe said there's another amazing thing here, based on a klal, ki yedua Shanot Seifon B'tchiloson B'tchiloson B'Seifon. This is a statement from the Sefer Yetzirah. But the Sefer Yetzirah is a very early, very primordial Kabbalah work, which is actually attributed to Avraham Avinu. He is said to be the author of the Sefer Yetzirah. And the Sefer Yetzirah goes in brief, terse, like statements, one after the other, but they're called Mishnayos. So in one of the early Mishnayos in the Sefer Yetzirah, it's written that it says that wherever you have a very high madrega, and then later you have a madrega which is shalei be'era, in lowness compared to the very high madrega, then we have a cloud that the very highest point is jammed in and has a presence in the lowest point, and the lowest point has a jammed in notes means something like hammered in the highest of all points. And these two things are interactory. How do you call it? It's not just that one is present in the other, but the other is also present in the other. So the Rebbe said, based on that cloud, we have a cloud that the beginning of a parsha must have a presence and a connection with the end of the parsha. And the same with the end of the parsha, has a presence and a meaningfulness in the beginning of the parsha. And we find this also certain great maforshim, and it's brought in Sforim, but again to Masechtas of the Shas, that the beginning of a Masechta has to have a connection with the end of the Masechta. Therefore, the great Sforim over the generations used to find how the very beginning of a tractate has a connection with the end of the tractate. In the Gemara, we're talking, not so much in the Mishnah, but in the Gemara, and that indicates this cloud, that no tchilos on be'seven. If that's the case, then it must be like that in each parsha. At the beginning of the parsha and the finality and the end, they must have an intimate connection, and that leads to a certain similarity. But you can't apply that general cloud if they're completely different one to the other. So therefore, says the Rebbe, if we take a look at the beginning of the parsha, then he said, Hari b'siyum ha-parsha, at the end of the parsha kosuv, vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim, the Yidden sat comfortably, literally, in Eretz Mitzrayim. Be'eretz Goshen, what is well known, Eretz Goshen was one of the choice of all the fruitful areas of Mitzrayim, and they were davke there. Vayifru vayirbu ma'id, and they multiplied many times, and they had many children, and they multiplied very swiftly. What that all indicates, had occurred a tremendous richness and broadness. Shezeh mareh is a toike v'achoizak shel b'nei Yisrael. The din have already come to a point of being with high power, and they're giving forth and multiplying. Well, that indicates their strength and their ability to affect the whole situation around. Ad kedei kach sheparei hamelech tziva lo seish lahem es meitav ha'oretz. When Yaakov eventually meets Parei, then as a result of their meeting, and even under certain things that he heard even before that, he said that you should, to Yosef, you should take your father and your brothers and give them the best part of Eretz Mitzrayim. Meitav ha'oretz means the best and most praiseworthy part of the country. And they took it over and had great hatzlacha there. The Yuma says, however, from the other point of view, but Chilas HaParsha, at the beginning, Musapur Davke Ala Matzav HaKoshe, Shel Yehuda ve'Echov, Ad Shehem Ne'elatzu Lehischaneh B'fnei Yosef, the beginning of the Parashat shows how they're bottled completely to the rulers of Mitzrayim, who in this particular moment was impersonified with the greatness of Yosef. They're bottled, and they have to ask that they have the minimum what they want to free their brother, which is the exact opposite. At the end of the Parashat, they are being placed in the best possible situation by the rulers, and they are spreading out and developing, and their influence is being felt all over the place. And here at the beginning of the Parashat, Yehuda, who is a great leader amongst the Bnei Yisrael, he has to be bottled to Yosef and request of him a minimal thing like freeing Benjamin. So that appears to be two opposites altogether. Yeah. Now, they were obliged to beg from Yosef, all this is talking before they knew he was Yosef. Once they knew he was Yosef, everything became different. But before they knew he was Yosef, then it was stuck in a very difficult situation. Well, that is b'diuk lahevach misiyum ha-parsha. That is the opposite of the end of the parsha. So based on our cloud, that the beginning and the end must have a very firm connection. As what is the connection between the beginning and the end? So those are some of the main questions that the Rebbe deals with in the whole thing. And in the meantime, the Rebbe makes the point that at the end, which is not very far into the parsha, Yosef is so emotionally affected that he breaks from all of his hard line with the brothers and reveals himself. And after he reveals himself, everything changes. However, it changes only in the sense that everything goes good then for the Yidden, but the leader is Yosef, and everything is coming through him. So the Rebbe says, Im Kain, what are we making such a big thing out of the fact that Yehuda approached him? That was only temporary. So the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe makes a very important point to klal in Chassidic teaching, that every detail in the Torah, I feel, is something which doesn't remain permanent. But the Torah tells us about it, well, that must have an everlasting instruction. Otherwise, there was no point in mentioning it. And so even though later the whole situation changes for the good through Yosef, not through Yehuda, but through Yosef, upon him things get better for the Yidden, and that means that the whole situation of Yehuda's beetle to Yosef alters. Nonetheless, the very fact that the Torah tells us that story, that there was a point where Yosef was the leader and Yehuda was completely bottled, that must have some everlasting meaning to it, even though things altered as time went by. So there we are. That's the beginning of the whole picture. So the Rebbe says, if we will reflect and think deeply, נראה שכאשר יהודה ניגש ליוסף לבקשו שישחרר את בנימין, then we will see that when Yehuda goes to Yosef and starts giving all sorts of reasons why he should free Benjamin, oyso bekach tekifus ve'oimetz b'tzura lo regila. And that's what Rashi points out, that Yehuda didn't approach, even though we call it in a general form like tachanunim. And tachanunim means like a pleading and like a begging. Oh, but there was a very powerful tone and a very powerful note in the way that Yehuda approached Yosef. And like Rashi brings a whole series of different nuances from Midrashim and so on, which indicate the what we call in the Lashon Kodesh of Chassidus toikev. Toikev means you know how they call a strong power. And the absolute noun from that is the word tkifus. Tkifus means, they call it sharpness and demand. So he said, we see that Yehuda realized he was completely bottled to Yosef, and he had to ask him. However, he did it in a very strong and powerful way. Therefore he said, Oysa bekach tkifas by oimetz. Oimetz means like courage and firmness, but tzura lo regila. Lamrisha b'ashkofa reshina adova marel hatekev shel Yosef. Yehuda revealed here a very powerful inner emphasis that he's really going to get what he wants, and his demand is very powerful. And that's an infant taker. When it appears that the taker was in the hands of Yosef, Yosef was the balabas, and he had to approach, and like it's brought down that Yosef was the shalit, b'kol ha ba'oretz, gam b'gashmis k'pshutei, v'gam b'rov inyonim ruvnim. So from that it would appear that Yehuda had a very, very powerful, how do you call it, inner strength to talk that way and approach Yosef that way. Yosef hoyo shoilet, I'll call Eretz Mitzrayim Shlita Malayo. Yosef wasn't just a harchi-parchi. Yosef was a complete and absolute ruler. He had, like Parashat said originally, only the throne will be greater than you, but everything else will be completely in your hand. So from that we see that Yosef was a complete control ruler with absolute control in his hand. What the simple pshat is that I see you to be like Parei. In other words, that since you've got absolute power from Parei, then you're like him. And just like he's the absolute ruler, so are you. But that indicates the greatness of Yosef. All of that didn't make Yehuda feel a bit, scared and put off. On the contrary, in other words, if you got a great ruler in front of you, if you have a great ruler in front of you and you want to request something, then the normal the normal practices in front of royalty are that you ask for permission. Could I please make a petition, or could I please have a word with the king, and so on. But here we see that Yehuda just went straight to Yosef without any ceremony at all. He just approached him directly. So he said, Yehuda Atzmai Omar Yosef, I'm sorry. But in other words, with a powerfulness, but diberi moi b'tzura kosher. Afilo, she'ekev kach, hu niklas l'sakonas nefasheh. He said things to Yosef. Well, Yosef being a king in the old days, there was no messing around. So he hinted things at Yosef that had Yosef wanted to take it in its literal form, he could have said, take this guy out and execute him. You follow? He could have had that done. So therefore, says the Rebbe, that indicates that Yehuda really was getting in to this with all of the power that he could muster, despite the fact that he was treading on a very, how do you call it, tightrope. He was treading on a very delicate tightrope. Im kain, הפוסק vayigash of Yehuda, שבתחילת הפרשה, מראה דווקא על התוקף של יהודה. If we look at it a different way, instead of the beginning of the parsha indicating the power of Yosef, and therefore everybody needs to request from him whatever they want, and his rulership, nonetheless, we could learn it another way, and we can say that the whole approach of Yehuda indicates the greatness of Yehuda, Lagavi Yosef. So therefore he said that indicates the power and the fearlessness and the great leadership of Yehuda. He said, Bekak Muvan Haitev, when that will understand very well, Akesher shall Tchilas HaParsha Im HaTeikev shall B'nei Yisrael B'Soifoi. And if we'll learn that way and we'll go with that approach, then we'll understand our question that we asked shortly before. What's the connection with the beginning of the parsha and the end, which seems to be the opposite? He said, Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim, Vayifru v'yirbu ma'id ma, that they multiplied and they became very, very great. He said, now it'll make sense because the beginning is also talking about the greatness of Yehuda. He said, V'gam l'toikev v'lamaylish Yehuda amasuva v'haftarah. And it'll also make sense. Our other question, what's the connection with the Haftarah? Because here we see, on the contrary, the greatness of Yehuda compared to Yosef of America. That fits in with the message of the Haftarah that David Avdi Meshevet Yehuda Nasi Lahem Le'olam. He will be the leader And there are two Lashonos over there, not just the word Nasi, Lahem Le'olam, but Melech also, the word Melech. There's a whole secret from the Rebbe, what's the difference between these two phrases and what they represent. Both of them represent absolute rulership. So what's the connection? So we see that Yehuda really approached Yosef like a balabas. He was like demanding from him in a way that he was making it clear that he's not going to settle for anything less than what he wants. That indicates the greatness of Yehuda. That makes sense that in the Haftarah, he's going to be the boss, he's going to be the Melech. Really, ultimately, he is going to be the leader, and that's what he revealed that slightly in a hidden way right from the very beginning. So therefore he says, and in the very essence of the matter, Hatoikev shel Yehuda begishosei el Yosef, vayigash shelo of Yehuda, or this powerfulness and determination of Yehuda in his approach to Yosef, which is expressed in the words vayigash shelo Yehuda, hizu shegom lekach sheyankivu bono Yosef b'Mitzrayim b'tzura na'usa. And it was that power that he revealed to Yosef, that he wasn't prepared for anything less than what he really wanted. Well, that was like an indication and like a setting of the scene for later, which led to them getting everything that they wanted. Not only Yosef just looked after them, and to a certain extent, forgave them, even though openly he didn't forgive them, by the way, but he did, but he didn't. It's a very amazing, the whole incident of whether Yosef actually forgave them or whether he didn't. That's, how do you call it, a cloudy issue. We're not really sure. And at the end of the Parsha, it's amazing. In fact, at the end of the Parsha, there's a huge, long Pirush from the Rabbeinu Bechaya. He was from a great mission after the Ramban. He was about the same time as the Ramban, but after a bit. And he writes that, I'm talking about last week's Parsha, not this week, but last week's Parsha. And he says that it's well known that Esora Haruge Malchus, the 10 great Chachamim that were killed by the Romans, they were in place of the 10 Shvatim that sold, they had, as it were, they had to undertake. So what he hints at over there is one of the reasons is because Yosef never actually forgave the Shvatim. And if you look carefully, even though he was Makar of them and everything, but there's a whole question as to whether he actually forgave them. And so since he didn't actually forgive them, there was still left until generations later, the 10 great Chachamim had to stand in the place of the 10 Shvatim. It's a very, like you shook your head, it's a very frightening piece. But that's what the Rabbeinu Bechaya said. Anyway, that's a whole issue all of its own. However, what we see is that Davki, because Yehuda indicated, and he took such a firm stand, that was like a basis in Ruchnias that later everything that the Yidden needed, including all the tribes with Yehuda together, they got it in the best possible way. Well, from that we learn also a very important inyan, that if you're already asking, then you have to ask in the best possible way. You don't ask for half measure. If you're already requesting from Hashem, then you request the best, and that sets a basis for everything going well. But all this is part of the case that I was making, that Yehuda went with a very broad thing here. So therefore he says, Gomer Lakachi Yaakov, Bonav Yoshua Mitzrayim, B'tzura Na'usa. Na'usa in Hebrew means, very good and very fine. Vayifru Vayirbume, that they fruitified and they spread out in a great measure. Vehi Hoyso Hachona, Lamayla Yehuda, not only was a preparation and a basis for what was going to be immediately afterwards, but that is the basis in Ruchnias for all the greatness that will occur to the Yidden later in the Gula Amidis Vashlema. So it just shows you that if you have any position and you're a guy like Yehuda and you're taking a case, then you have to build the best possible case. And that sets a tone for the way that things will flow, even in the generation to come, and even in the Gula Shlema. And that's why the Rebbe trains us the whole time. You have to ask what to take it. You have to say, we want Moshiach now. Not just we'll be happy if you send us Moshiach, but we want Moshiach now. And Ad Masai and all these inyonim, which indicate a setting of a very firm basis, and that will set the theme for how things are going to run. So therefore, ניתן לשאול, we can ask another question. The Rebbe's got quite a few questions here before we get down to the final answer, but however, what the Rebbe says now is that we can ask, Kol HaTeikev Shel Yehuda, Yebo Mimnei Shehu Chosho Shemeduvah B'Mishnah L'Melech She'eino Yehudi. Here the Rebbe is making another very fascinating point. Like we pointed out before, that this moment that Yehuda approached Yosef, then he didn't know that Yosef was Yosef. So what did he think and what was in his mind at that moment that he approached Yosef? He thought he was talking to a non-Jew. He thought he was talking to a goy, a very powerful one and everything. But he just assumed that whoever's the leader in Mitzrayim was a Mitzrayim. So that's what is in the what we call the kasol hadaita, how they call it, like the supposition of Yehuda, until later on he found out it was Yosef. But at that moment he thought he was one of the goyim. V'lochein Yehu ne'elatz lifnei shelo b'toikev u'b'chutzpah. And therefore Yehuda had no other choice but to approach him in a way which was a very, and what appears to be like almost chutzpah. Aval Yachashe is Parashat Yosef. Hina Mishnah L'Melech, that the real Mishnah L'Melech is his brother Yosef. Then you don't need Yehuda's Tkifas anymore, because Yosef gives everything that they need. V'hagoyim l'kach she'bnei Yisrael yochlu l'shevet b'Mitzrayim b'nuyach ba'a mibirchas Yosef. Once Yosef realized that they were, asking for, or at least that he thought they were sorry for what they did and for everything. So then Yosef received them well, and then everything that good that happens after that seems to come from Yosef. B'schus Yosef shetiva lo zeis lebnei Yisrael b'meitev lohushiva b'nei Yisrael b'meitev ha'ored. B'schusoi Oma Parei, because of Parai's great trust in Yosef, Parei said, well, he's the king of the whole country, Tuv Kol Eretz Mitzrayim Lachem, that the best of this whole country is for you people. He said, Oma Ho'ilu Kan Tishvasa Shel Yehuda. So what had really helped the whole story that Yehuda got tough with Yosef is no longer really relevant. So what does it all help? And how does that fit in with what we said, that set the basis for everything? So the Rebbe says, Im teikev seh hoyos mani bilvad, en leze kesher klal, l'man les Yehuda shetiyeh b'geula. Which is brought down in the after. So then we got another kasher, that if we're going to say that this teikev real was only temporary, because afterwards everything was in the hands of Yosef again, and he did the right thing by everybody. So then it follows that this doesn't really link up with what we see in the Haftarah, because in Haftarah, Yehuda is the one that's the Belabaz. He's going to be the king forever. And here, at this point, Yosef takes over the leadership once again of everybody, including his brother. So in Cain, how does that link up with the Haftarah? How does it fit in with the Haftarah? But since Torah is everlasting, Mukrochim onu loima, sheyesh b'teikev shel Yehuda, or this powerful and determined approach of Yehuda, Maila, V'Teikev, She'enam Kayom B'Yesa. There's something very special about this powerful determination of Yehuda that's very special, and it's an everlasting message to everybody, and it doesn't have to do with Yesef. It's not Yesef Sinya. מכיוון שיסף פעל לפי הכללים שהיו במצרים. Yosef dealt with them good, and he did everything right for them, but according to Pharaoh's instruction and according to whatever was the royal rules that ran Mitzrayim, he went according to them, but he made sure that it was in a good way for his brothers. But he went according to what you might call the divine ruling in a particular, I'm sorry, not the royal ruling, I mean, the royal ruling apart in that particular matter. Ilu Yehuda, Nozen es HaKoyach, Liyesh, Leirak, Sholid, Al Mitzrayim, Val Ho'ilam, Kiyesef, Ela Liyesh, Lagamri, Me Al Ho'ilam, Ve'Hagolah. That Yosef gives us the power to go ahead, but to do everything in the right way. And he could to be a leader even, but a leader according to the way the king wants. And so that can be applied at all times, even in the time of the Golos. Like we find in many periods of history that there were great Jewish leaders, but they were like, they were assistants, advisors to the big kings, and therefore they advised them according to the rules of the country. They didn't go completely outside the country. However, Yehuda, by approaching Yosef the way he did, thinking that Yosef was a leader of the Goyim, Yehuda achieved a whole new idea, and he showed that you can affect a country and you can affect things in a positive way, even if you go beyond the normal things. And therefore he approached Yosef without asking first. Everything was in a way that he was completely beyond. So the Rebbe is coming out with an amazing message that Yehuda, by approaching Yosef in that way, has given to Yidden an everlasting gift. And what's the everlasting gift? That even though you may be in Golos, and even you may be under the foot of kings and that run the country, but if you stand with a certain power and a certain belief in the divine power that has been given into the Yiddish neshama, then you can be higher than everything, not just good with the country, but you can affect the country in a way that you become like a real balabas over the country. Yeah, and you can even cause them to overlook or even to change their laws according to what you as a Yid will want. Yeah, that's what the Rebbe said. That if you, like we saw in Hey Tevis, the whole thing of Hey Tevis is mamish that point that according to the New York law, where the main part of the whole trial took place, there's some states where maybe it doesn't apply so much, but they are very, very much in the whole idea of Yerusha. Whoever's the Yerush, he gets everything, and that's everything. And so it is in certain, most other states, also in the United States of America. That's why people told the Rebbe at the beginning, even the lawyers told the Rebbe that it's very difficult to see how we have a chance in this whole thing. And they only got into it because of the Rebbe's insistence that he was going to go into it. But they themselves were a little bit, not just a little bit, they were heavily in doubt at the beginning as to whether there was anything really to say. Nonetheless, we see the Davki, because they went with the takers that the Rebbe wanted them to go with, they came out of the American court and later the Supreme Court, but that's even a greater thing, is they overlooked all their own rules and they fussed the Rebbe in the world, and the Rebbe, everything that belongs to Yidden belonged to him, etc. Etc. And the Supreme Court, they will makabel the whole the whole appeal without any changes, without even making one, siyaf or something, or one modification, or they just how do you say the word me'asha? They acknowledged, they acknowledged the whole psak of the original code without any CFM. But that all tends to indicate that really what happened here was that the Rebbe and the Chassidim, with the Rebbe's power, well, that's Shevet Yehuda. The Rebbe's from Shevet Yehuda. He's also from both sides. He's from David HaMelech, both from his mother and his father. In that regard, we said that they went up in a way beyond all the. Where they get that koyach from Yehuda? Where does that come from? That comes from Yehuda's approach to Yisrael, and that's why that has to be put in at the beginning, even though later it's not really relevant. Why does it have to be put in the beginning? To show you that if a Yid only stands firm, then he can alter things in such a way that the Goyim will, even against their own principles, they will accept what Yidden really demanding of them in a way that's good for them and for the whole world. So it comes out it's an absolutely mind-boggling message to each individual. That's what the Rebbe said at the beginning. That you've got to know that if you stand firm and you don't reckon with any hagbodas, but you go melachatchila in a toika where you just don't show any bittul to the ways of the goyim, then you could be, as it were, you can become like a ruling power over them, even before Mashiach comes, and how much more so after the actual scholars of Mashiach. So therefore says the Rebbe, what I don't know if you guys are hopping on, but that's really it's an absolutely mind-boggling idea. So the Rebbe is going to say that everything has to have some sort of a in Torah we have to find an indication or illustration of this point, to back it up. So he said, if we take Mordechai, a Yehudi, at the time of Achashverosh, then we're going to find exactly this principle, that Kol Abdei HaMelech, all the servants of the king, they had to bow down to Haman. There was only one person that said, I'm sorry man, but I'm not bowing down. Mordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachaveh, which means that Mordechai went in that particular part, he went against what Tziva lo yah HaMelech. The Melech had given an instruction, you have to bow down to Haman. Nonetheless, Mordechai said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. And yet, nonetheless, he remained ultimately the balabas in that particular Indian. And later, Haman had a tremendous makola from the fact that he stood so firm. But the Rebbe brings another dogma of that. And where are we holding up with the time?
5 minutes to 8, 5 minutes to 9. 5 to 9.
5 to 9, right. So, like I often do towards the end of these classes, I try to chap around quite a lot at one go. So, what I want to show you is that the Rebbe brings this amazing proof from Mordechai, but he puts it into a statement of the Gemara in Masechta Megillah, which leads to once again a very amazing message that if you really stand firm, you could cause the goyim to come your way, and even at the expense of overlooking their own principles. And if you look into that once again deeply, you can see the Rebbe painting the whole picture of Hey Tevis. That's what he says at the end. He said there's a connection between Hey Tevis and all that was spoken about above. So what was the whole thing? It's written that Achashverosh made a big suda. He made a huge suda. And it's written that he gave, you could eat anything you wanted, you could find at the suda. And then he says that there was wine, the type of wine that was available at the suda was tremendous wine, beautiful, most unbelievable qualities of wine. And then he said that it had to be, according to the command of the king, it had to be kirtzein ish bo ish, that the wine had to be so what in simple terms, it means so very fine that whoever wanted a certain type of wine would be able to find it. That's what it means, Pastor. Yeah, Kirtzain, Ish, for Ish, you have to have so many different tastes of wine according to each person. However, the Gemara comes along and says in Masechta Megillah, and the Gemara says, what does it mean that you have to do Kirtzain, Ish, for Ish? The word Ish, for Ish are referring to Mordechai and Haman. Because Mordechai is called Ish Yehudi, and Haman is called Ish Tsar V'Oyev. Remember, there's like a connection between them, and a Gezer Shova almost, that he's called Ish and he's called it. So you have to do according to every man is referring to Mordechai and Haman. So the Rebbe should think for a moment, what does that mean? What did Mordechai want? Mordechai wanted always to be Tachlis HaKashrus. He's not going to go for anything but the very best according to how they called Rav Lander's section. You know, he's anything less than that, he's not going to be, or the Vadat, you know, he's not going to go for anything less. Haman, he represents using the wine and drinking the wine in its worst possible way, and in the way of Hefker, according to Taivas Elam Hazeh, so how could it be Kirotzain Ishvo? Either two absolute Hafochim, two absolute Hafochim Zebizeh. So I noticed in the Gemara, there's a very fascinating diuk that Rashi also apparently had discussion. How can you do Kirotzain? You can't do both. You have to have either all kosher wine for everybody, or all Haman's wine. There's two Hafochim. So Rashi says that the king appointed both Mordechai and Haman as Sarei Hamashkim. And they became like the ministers of the wines for the Suda, which means there were like two ministers. So if you're a minister, you're like a leader. You can do what you want. So each one could do whatever he wanted, and he couldn't have any titles he wanted there, because he's a Sarei Hamashkim and he's a separate Sarei Hamashkim. So if that's the case, then they can each give whatever they want. But if you learn it in the simple sense that they were just giving out wine to people, then you can't have both, and you can't have two. And there's a medrash, a very amazing medrash, but the Rebbe brings down in Esther Rabbah, in the Medrashim on Megillas Esther, what the medrash says that Eino Hanami, it couldn't really be at the Surah Kirotzain, Ish for Ish, was two opposites. So that means that somebody had to give in to one, somebody had to give in to the other. You can't have two opposites. When Mashiach will come, then the Eibishter will be revealed how he is beyond any limitations. So Hashem, being beyond limitations, beyond Ishtoshus, he'll be able to make opposites fit together. At the time of that Suda, it had to be either one way or the other. And so the Medrash deals with this whole problem. So how can it be? Nonetheless, it was a Kirotzain, Ish for Ish. That's what the pasuk said. It can't be that way. So the Rebbe says that means that somebody must have given in to somebody, and it became like his rotten, even though it wasn't his rotten. So the Rebbe says the Gemara in this particular prat is higher than the Medrash. It's showing a state the Medrash can't be, and the Medrash remains with a kasha. How can you say that? But the Gemara is a bit of pshitas that it was Kirotzain, Ish, Vish, Haman, and Mordechai. So therefore the Rebbe learns that we have to say that even under Achashverosh, what happened was that because Mordechai stood so firm, and he said, I'm not going to bow down to anybody except the Eibishter, then that caused that Haman became bottled. And Haman also, against his own will, he became bottled, and he said, whatever Mordechai gives out, that will be good. And so it became his rotzen also. Not because he really wanted that way, but because that's the way it happened. It became also Kirotzain Ishvo. Ish, and even he became Niklal and Miyachet with Mordechai, and he gave out kosher. It's amazing. So Lefizeh Kunteis, that the Rebbe learns that even in the time of Mordechai Esther, even in the time of Mordechai and Achashverosh, Mordechai's firm stand caused already a beetle that kirotzain ish for ish. It means it was only according to one person, not according to both. It can't be according to both. And it was only according to Mordechai. For which, why was Mordechai zeicher to that? What was so amazing? Because Mordechai took a firm stand. He said, Lo yichra v'lo yishtachaveh, even though that was against the law of what the king himself said. He told everybody to bow down to Haman, and yet nonetheless, who came out the Barabas? Yeah, Mordechai. So from that we see, just by the way, it comes out that there's a very amazing limud in that Gemara. If we learn the pshat according to the way the Rebbe learns it, it's an amazing idea. Like I said, Rashi, to a certain extent, avoids the whole case. It's very amazing. Not avoids it, but he sort of settles it in a simple way. But the way the Rebbe learns it, it comes out at the beginning of the whole battle of Haman, and the whole fact that Haman later became completely bottled, began with the Suda. Already at the Suda, he was already bottled too. He lost his whole materials, and it became Kirtzoin ish for ish in one rotter, which means that he was already bottled. Which means, if he said, that the whole reason why we have to be told at the beginning of the Megillah, the whole story about the Suda, Meinach Gemina, what's it matter? Adikot Achashverosh was a shikar, and he shikkered himself for 6 months with all his chaverim. What does it matter to us? What does that tell us? So we have to say that pre-fakir, that right in that Suda, that was already the beginning of the bittul of Haman. Haman had already had it, right from that moment. Why? Because Mordechai made clear that he's not Korea Mishtachaveh. So what did the king do? The king ordered the laws of the country, as it were, and he said, okay, Mordechai, you do it your way. Even though Mordechai had gone against the rules of the country by not bowing down to Haman. So the Rebbe goes on and points out in the whole Hamshah of the Sikha that that's what Yehuda gave to the whole Jewish people by approaching, what do we call him, Yosef, the way he did at the beginning, even though that doesn't remain, the full picture of the whole Parsha, or the fact that he thought at that moment that Yosef was a non-Jewish leader, and yet nonetheless he took such a firm stand with him. That teaches us the Koladot. So it's absolutely a mind-boggling message. And the Rebbe goes on to say later that there are two ways you can be a Jewish leader. One way is that you hammer the interests of the Jewish people, but you're careful not to go beyond over dinner demalchus a dinner. That's a din in Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat. Do everything the way the laws of the country. You're careful to do, but you defend and you look after the interests of the Jewish people as best you can. Another way is that you go to Chatchila, Ariba, and you link yourself with the Eibush of the way he is beyond the whole Seder Shtalshalas, and you approach the Goyim that way. Then what happens with them is that they eventually come your way, even if they overlook their own principles. That's the Rebbe's point, and it's absolutely amazing. And the Rebbe says that is the message to us before the Geulah comes. That the way all the problems with Eretz Yisrael and the whole thing, all you need to do is just go to take it and say, listen, this is the way it is, Al-Pi, the rulings of the Eibishter, and this is the way we're going to do it, and you guys just stand on your head. We're not reckoning with anybody, we're not giving back Eretz Yisrael, that's it, party. So the Rebbe said, build these Soviets, in the end they'll all come round. The reason they don't is because we sort of Shema. You follow? That's one thing. And then the Rebbe says that the whole for Hey Tevas is the same thing. That's what the Rebbe said. He said that Hey Tevas indicates, that by standing with the farmers like he did, the Rebbe. And it was all the Rebbe. Because the lawyers were all sort of, they weren't sure, yes, no, it is, yes. And the Rebbe said, no, we're going to, and I'll just give you one example. It's a very political zone. One of the main things that the Rebbe and the Chassidim put on the table of the court as evidence was a letter that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote before Yitzchak, a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe when some Sforim that were Jews, not the ones in Russia, but there was some Sforim in Poland, but they managed to get them out easy, and they came on a ship and they had to get into the United States. So the customs and everything are going to say, what's all this, what are all these books, and how much you have to pay. So the Rebbe Rayetz wrote a letter in which he said that these books don't belong to anybody, and yet they do. In other words, they don't belong to any given individual. They belong to the whole of Chassidus, Chabad, and to all the Chassidim, and to all Yidden who will want to use them with his permission. Anybody can use them because they're not really his, and they're not really the Chassidim Siddur. It's like this amazing concept that they belong to everybody. They say that's what the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to the customs authorities in America. So the Rebbe said, you have to take that letter, and that's going to be one of the main, exhibits in front of the court. So the lawyers couldn't hide their smile, and I said, look, it's very easy to frag that off. How do you say frag off? Dismiss that. Fragging in Yiddish means to dismiss something. And they'll say, well, listen, he wrote that because he wanted to get free of the customs, So in order to get free of the customs and get this for him in, he came up with this idea. Oh, well, no, because that really is the case. So the Rebbe was just horrified. And the Rebbe said, what? Are you trying to suggest that my father-in-law would write something that wasn't absolute truth? Truth, miti, absolute. Everything my father-in-law said is true in its own right, absolute. So even though he wrote it because he wanted to achieve it, but it's emes lamite. So they said, well, okay, the Rebbe's the boss, he says it. And that later proved to be one of the main things that the Goyim was so mispoiled from, that they saw that the Frierdiker Rebbe, not just the Rebbe, but they see that the founder of the whole American system of Chassidim, he said that the Sforim don't really belong to anybody. And they took that as to be a very great exhibit, and it was one of their bases for their rulings. And this shows that the taker for the Rebbe said, no, anything my father-in-law wrote is absolute and it must have an effect. It can't be otherwise. And therefore that became an amazing thing. And the lawyers, they said, no, they'll find a way to dismiss that, chick-chack. And they didn't. They didn't say that. You said, why didn't they say it? Because the Rebbe went with a taker, and he trusted absolutely in eloquence. It's a crowd there. Asara. But I said, he cut it loud to you, so.
That's okay.
Anna said, איך שלא להתלהב, שתופסים את הנקודה, אבל מילא, that's the whole message of the whole scene, and that's in even Hey David, and if we understand it that way, that is the message of vayigash Yehuda, even though that's only part of the beginning, and it's not the Hepshek, but in that is hidden the whole message, and that's in Hey David. Well, Miller, guys, what does that teach us? We have to go with the taker. We have to know that if we go with the emes, and we go according to Torah, and we go with a pshita, that this and this is the case, then we have to win. You follow? And probably one of the difficulties is, we sort of, I really do, but I don't, or I really mean it, but we gotta get rid of all these buts, It's gotta be, this is it, that's it. Yeah. Moshiach now, the pastors, without messing around, and everybody will be makabel. That's the difficulty. People say, "Oh, people will be makabel." Maybe. No, they will. That's the Rebbe was so certain that the Goyim would be makabel that letter, and that's what happened. They were makabel against their own normal principles. They were makabel. Okay, guys. So that's the message, and therefore, hey tevas, not just a day, a very special day, special things happen. Hey tevas is like a whole life. It's like a whole way of bringing the Gula Shlema, the Pearl Mountain, and not being satisfied, not recognizing halfway house. You know what halfway house means in the English slang? It's like a place where you just rest for the time being. But yeah, the Emes, Amitias, Adazah, L'chaim. I mean, just not Mashki. After a message like that, you can say Mashki on anything. You can say L'chaim on anything.
I'm L'chaim. That's Facebook. Hi.
Later, I told you, say L'chaim.
The Alter Rebbe does not include that. The Alter Rebbe looks not to include that final point in Torah, or he doesn't really include that part about breaking through to the Goyim, right? The Alter Rebbe doesn't, right?
To a certain extent he did.
Yeah?
In a slightly different oivan, but it's all there.
It's there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's there. In your test kisses. And if you look at the letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote to the Talmudi Abba Shem, you see that the Alter Rebbe writes that there were tremendous nisim completely beyond the normal flow of the Torah and the way. And he writes there that a few of the servants of the king also admitted that it was a divine way. So the Rebbe asked the question, why does he need to say that the servants of the king, what's the matter what they think? The main thing is they said him out. It doesn't matter what they thought. So that's the point. They themselves became bottled against their own principles.
But the actual mimer in Torah Or, the main vayigash mimer in Torah Or, doesn't bring that point up so clearly. See, the Alter Rebbe's story has that point. Vayigash in Torah Or doesn't have that point so clearly at all.
Yeah, you're saying that it doesn't.
Vayigash in Torah Or doesn't look to have the point about breaking through the
Vayigash